Hey guys, before this video begins, I really need to explain what it is you're watching. About a month ago, the spring semester for my college ended, and one of my final projects was to make a video essay on something relating to writing for the internet. I stumbled upon the video I made while browsing my files, and decided to post it onto YouTube. You'll see that I put way too much effort into it just to not make it public. The video was shown to the class, so I did some things in this that I normally wouldn't do. Obviously, I have no problem with you, the viewer, checking out my SCP author page, but I wasn't quite ready for my peers to know my internet alias. So if you're wondering why I blurred my pen name, that's why. I just wanted to mention this so I don't get comments asking why I'm keeping my wiki account secret in a video being posted on a YouTube channel with the same name. Alright, that's it. Enjoy the video. Wattpad, Scholastics, fanfictions, franchises, the amateur, the professional. We're all fully aware of the differences between these two groups. Regardless of what your creative field is, there will always be a divide between people who create because it's their job, and people who create because it's fun. You'll also be hard-pressed to find any real overlap between the groups. Good luck finding a professional level story on fanfiction.net. Go ahead, Jimmy, pitch your FNAF X Reader fanfic to that publishing studio.
Oh wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
The point I'm trying to make is that it appears that the professional and the amateur are two completely separate fields. And yeah, for the most part, they are. But what if I told you that there existed a middle ground between the two? A bridge that, through standards and collaboration, acts as an excellent path for amateur writers to become a professional. A website that I encourage everyone who wishes to pursue creative writing try their hand in. And that website is the SCP Wiki. Now I know what you're all thinking. SCP? I love that game! Markiplier's Let's Play of Containment Breach is the best! And I play Secret Lab every Saturday with the boys! And that's great, but it's not what I'm talking about. Over the past few years, the SCP IP has slowly leaked into pop culture and the greater internet sphere, to the point that games, short films, and soulless content farms are constantly being made of the topic. However, these all have a general disconnect from the source material, that being the SCP Wiki itself. You know, the place where all these stories come from? Now, the name of the website is a bit misleading. Well, yes, you are able to freely edit the source code of most pages. Calling it a wiki the same way you'd call Wikipedia or Heroes Wiki a wiki would be inaccurate. The website describes itself as a collaborative, speculative fiction website about the SCP Foundation, or as I like to call it, a community collaborative writing project. What does that mean? Basically, there's an established universe and canon that you base your stories in, with each narrative adding to the universe and canon. Think of it like this. If you have an idea for a story you want to write, but don't want to have to bother yourself with world building or establishing a universe, set it in the SCP canon and post it on the wiki. Now, with what I just described, you may think that the SCP Wiki is just a glorified fanfic site. A place for writers to post their stories about characters they didn't make that takes place in a universe they didn't make. But that depends on what your definition of fanfiction is. Are the Star Wars books not written by Lucas himself fanfiction? Are the countless Pinocchio movies made over the past decade fanfiction? Is that piece of fan art depicting a scene that didn't officially happen fanfiction? Is that shower thought you had about power scaling your two favorite fictional characters fanfiction? For me personally, I consider fanfiction to be any piece of written narrative of a specific franchise that isn't endorsed by the creators of said franchise. And since the community of the SCP Wiki is itself the creators, nothing published to the site is fanfiction because everything is official. Even stories that just take already established characters and themes and expands on them, like mine. I've written several stories for the wiki that take pre-existing characters and explores them without ever consulting the original creators. Wait, you write for the wiki? I sure do. What's the name of the stories you've written? What's your account name? That is a great question. Now, those of you familiar with the SCP Wiki are probably screaming at me to address the elephant in the room, the writing style of the wiki. See, the SCP Wiki isn't a very mainstream publishing site. In fact, very few professional writers even know about the website, and the reason is because of how niche everything is. SCP appeals to a very specific audience, fans of the paranormal, containment procedures, and most of all, technical writing. Articles are written to appear like lab reports or containment specifications. It's called Secure, Contain, Protect after all. Because of this, a creative writer might be put off by their first glance at the wiki. However, I want to make it clear that these lab report-like articles are just a gimmick of the wiki, not a requirement. More traditional stories, called tales, do exist on the wiki. In fact, while SCPs are what are most known on the website, it's the tales that primarily expand the canon and give the universe its backbone. In fact, SCP has expanded a lot since its humble days as a creepypasta submission site. I said earlier that the target audience were paranormal fans and containment fiction fans, but really there's so much more now. With over 7,000 SCPs, countless tales, and an entire sister website, all of which span all types of genres, tropes, and storytelling, there's something for everyone on the wiki. So now that we understand what SCP is, let's talk about why it's such a good platform for upcoming professional writers. I could say a lot about why the SCP Wiki is so good for amateur authors who want to go into the field professionally, but there are 3 main reasons why I believe this to be the case. First is the canon. I touched on this earlier, about how every story in the wiki takes place within the SCP universe, even if the continuities are different. For a new author, I cannot stress how helpful this is. Not having to worry about world building or making a backstory for every single character allows you to spend more time on things like narrative and developing your own original characters. Speaking of which, the second reason why the SCP Wiki is so good for upcoming authors is because of its gatekeeping. And oh boy, do I love gatekeeping.
Did he just say, aye, he did?
Okay, hear me out. Gatekeeping is a term that comes with a lot of negative connotation these days, and admittedly, I understand why. I say gatekeeper, and you probably think of a 30-year-old neck-bearded Reddit dweller calling a 10-year-old slurs because their drawing was made by a 10-year-old. I get it. There's a lot of bad gatekeeping out there, but there's also times where gatekeeping is a good thing. And in this case, it's the best thing to ever happen to the wiki. Originally, I was going to go into the entire process of uploading a story to the wiki, but it ended up being like a third of the video, so you'll just have to take my word for it. All you need to know is that you need to be at least 18 years old to join, you need to pitch your idea to a select group of people, you need to pitch your drafts to a select group of people, and be ready for your article to be deleted within an hour of being uploaded. Yeah, it can get brutal. It takes most new authors months to even years before they make something that stays up. Now while this sounds scary and like a place that is impossible to get into, getting something to stay up on the wiki is a cakewalk compared to getting a publishing studio to sign off on your book. Despite everything I just said about the upload process, the wiki is still an amateur-friendly site. No one there is expecting absolute perfection in any of your articles. However, if you open up Google Docs and take a shit on the screen, don't be surprised when your story gets taken down before you have time to even announce it in your Discord server. Now if you're worried that your story isn't good enough for the wiki, then I have some great news for you. Because if there's one thing the wiki absolutely excels at, it's collaboration. Now I already spoke about some of the wider collaboration of the site. Every story being based on this community-made universe is certainly the best example of collaboration, but there's also a lot of it on the micro scale as well. The SCP Wiki, as the name implies, is a wiki, and while I already said it's a bit different from your average Wikipedia, it still allows users to edit the source code of pages. This is allowed for collaboration between authors and artists on single projects and articles. It's not uncommon for an SCP page or tale to have 2, 3, or even 5 authors credited with it. A similar thing can be said about canons, not to be confused with the greater overall SCP canon. Canons are entire alternate timelines or continuities within the SCP Wiki. Often what will happen is a group of people will come up with an alternate universe for the SCP universe, and work together to basically make an entirely separate entity. Sure, it uses characters that have already been established in the SCP lore, but now everything is in a Wild West setting, or a Gothic Victorian era city-state, or a reality where death stops working and nothing dies, or in Canada. But perhaps the best form of collaboration is the day-to-day one that happens all the time on the wiki: critiques. Critiques are probably the #1 reason why the quality of the wiki is much higher than Wattpad or fanfiction.net. You are given ample ways to have your draft looked at by other people, and there is no shortage of users who are happy to give you advice on your story. The wiki forums are a great place to start. Post your draft or idea on there, include what it is you want looked at specifically, and wait for people to grill you over how terrible your writing habits are. If things are going a little slow, you can even look for other people's drafts and strike a deal with them. If you look at my draft, I'll look at yours, or crit swapping is an extremely common practice on the wiki. If you want to hold a more live conversation with someone, head on over to the IRC chat. It's a third-party website that essentially acts as a chat room between users. There you can crit swap with someone, pitch an idea you have, plan out a canon with people, or just chill and chat about your favorite SCPs and tales. Hell, it doesn't even need to be IRC chat. There are tons of Discord servers you can find SCP fans on. The point is, at the center of the SCP Wiki is collaboration. It's a community, collaborative writing project, a place where authors go to challenge themselves without the pressure of monetary gain, or being tossed to the wolves known as book critics. If you have a story idea or character you want to create, or a narrative you want to tell, and want genuine feedback from a mature audience without committing to a costly book release, the SCP Wiki is for you. Just find a way to tie it into the greater canon, and people will do everything in their power to make it the best product they can. And who knows, maybe if it's good enough, it'll be translated into a different language. I didn't mention this before, but I wanted to bring it up before I ended. The SCP Wiki is available in multiple different languages. Right now, including English, there are 16 different language branches, with 4 currently being developed. Keep in mind that these branches have their own SCPs completely unique to the English one. So if you're fluent in any foreign language, you can have access to an entirely new catalog of stories and characters. And if you're not fluent in a foreign language, that's okay too! The international branch of the wiki takes stories written in other languages and translates them to English. Because the people translating them are often themselves non-native speakers, most of these articles are written in, wait for it, global English. I expect bonus points for mentioning this. If you ever get the chance, try reading some of these translated articles. It's interesting to see how a non-native speaker writes compared to a native English speaker. And again, maybe if one of these non-native speakers reads and enjoys your story, they might translate it into their native language, expanding your influence across the world. You could have an internationally translated story without really doing anything. Why? Collaboration. Whether it's translating a story between languages, building entirely new timelines and storylines within the lore, working with a group of people on a single article, or just getting someone to critique your draft, collaboration is everywhere on the wiki, and it's one of the many reasons why the SCP Wiki is the perfect middle ground between amateur fanfic writers and professional creative experts.